Cape Cod. The very name conjures up images of windswept beaches and picturesque lighthouses. A place where the catch of the day was actually caught today. And while the Cape is still all of this, it's much more as well. Although it's only about 60 miles from one end of this curving peninsula to the other, believe it or not, there are over 500 miles of coastline here, and you could easily spend a lifetime exploring every nook and cranny. But even if you only have a few extra days on your visit to Boston, it's well worth it to put the Cape on your to-do list. Actually, Cape Cod is not a peninsula at all. In the early part of the 20th century, a 17-mile-long canal was constructed, effectively cutting the Cape off from the rest of the mainland and turning it into a huge island. Though over 200,000 hardy residents live here year-round, during the summer months the population explodes, which can turn the 60-mile trip to and from Boston into a bit of a slog at times. Every year, millions of visitors descend upon the Cape, many of them not even named Kennedy, so timing your visit can be a critical part of a successful vacation. Geographically, Cape Cod is usually divided into 4 distinct sections, and each has its own charms. Just after we cross the bridge over the canal, we arrive in what's known as the Upper Cape. Here, many start their visit in Sandwich, the oldest community on Cape Cod, founded in 1637. In this small coastal town, there's a 17th century grist mill that's open for tours, as well as the heritage museums and gardens, where over 1,000 varieties of plants and flowers surround a turn-of-the-century carousel. Visitors to Sandwich can also take the boardwalk over a salt marsh out to Town Neck Beach, where they can get in some FaceTime with Cape Cod Bay. Or, on the southwestern tip of the Upper Cape, is Woods Hole, which is a center of oceanographic research, in addition to being one of the prime departure points for ferries out to Martha's Vineyard. About 25 miles from Woods Hole, and we're in Hyannis, the self-proclaimed capital of Cape Cod. The name is not altogether undeserved, as this is the transportation hub of the entire Cape, and one of the most popular destinations for visitors. Of course, the most famous part-time residents here are the Kennedy clan, who have been summering in Hyannis Port since Joe Kennedy Sr. took some of his money made from, investments, and bought a place here back in the 1920s. John Kennedy's days on the Cape are now memorialized in 2 ways in town. First, at the John F. Kennedy Museum right downtown, and then at the outdoor JFK Memorial near Hyannis Harbor. Hyannis is part of what's known as the Mid-Cape, which is the most heavily toured section of Cape Cod. Running through the center of this area is Route 6A, which cuts its way through the various small towns and villages here, and basically has quaint Americana written all over it. Venturing back north of Route 6A, and we find ourselves in the village of Dennis, where the Scargo Tower offers us some of the best views of this part of the Cape. However, it's just about at this point in our jaunt around the Cape that we could all use a bit of exercise. Well, that's where the Cape Cod Rail Trail comes in. Starting about 5 miles south of Scargo Tower, this bike trail follows 25 miles of the old train route that ran from Boston all the way out to Provincetown on the tip of the Cape. It's a great way to experience Cape Cod, and an even better way to work off some of that ice cream that we've been inhaling non-stop since we crossed the canal. One of the stops along the rail trail is Orleans, where Skagit Beach is just one of many family-friendly beaches in this 3rd section of Cape Cod, the so-called Lower Cape, where the landmass takes a sharp left turn and heads to the north. Other highlights in this narrower strip of the Cape include Chatham to the south, with its picture-perfect pier and architecture, and Truro to the north, where duffers can hack away in the shadow of the Highlands Lighthouse. The last stretch of the Cape, the Outer Cape, is at once one of the most remote and most popular spots in the entire region. The barren province lands and the unspoiled Cape Cod National Seashore belie the lovely vacation mecca that Provincetown has become. And the Pilgrim Monument in Provincetown itself marks the spot where the Mayflower first made landfall in 1620, before William Bradford, Miles Standish, and the gang sailed further up the coast to start Plymouth Colony. From the top of this 252-foot tower, visitors can see all the way back to Boston on a clear day. However, if you're not yet ready to schlep back to Boston, there's one more stop we can make. Taking the 30-mile ferry ride out of Hyannis, we arrive on the shores of Nantucket Island, another gem in this part of the state. Nearly 40% of this 14-mile island is protected conservation land, making it the perfect place for an afternoon hike. Cranberry bogs dot the inland areas, and the secluded harbor hosts pleasure boats of every shape and size. Indeed, Nantucket owes much of its history to the waters that surround it. In the early days of the 19th century, Nantucket was considered the whaling capital of the world, and it became the third largest city in all of Massachusetts. The island's rich maritime past is on full display right downtown at the Whaling Museum. But to be honest, putting a museum in Nantucket almost seems a bit redundant. The fact is that the entire town, with its gorgeous architecture and one-of-a-kind shops, is as well-preserved a picture of old-time New England as you're likely to find anywhere. And around here, that's saying something. So you see, not only does history come alive here in Boston, but pretty much everything else does too. For more trip planning information, check out our website or access the bonus features of this DVD. Enjoy your visit to Boston. Oh, and by the way, if you actually do park the car in Harvard Yard, you'll probably get towed.